I think so too.
So, hello, Gina. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Axie.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. We are at the very first edition of Changing Channels at the Bunker. We currently have 0 viewers, but hopefully that will change. So I think I posted the correct link. Let's post it again, just so that everyone knows where we are. The idea with these is to go through the entire episode of season 13. Starting from episode 1, which is Lost and Found. Let's see. There. And so pretty much anyone who was following me on my previous publication knew that I wrote in one of the few reviews I did for this season was for episode 1, just because of the last, well, not the very last scene, because the very last scene is Lucifer and Mary, but the second to last scene with Sam, Dean, and Jack about how you say goodbye to someone, which was really hard for me because at that point in time I had just said goodbye to my dad, which I didn't have a very good relationship with. And oh, look, we have one viewer. Hello. How do I turn on comments? Chat. There we are. That's a group chat. This is the first time I've done this, so my apologies. You guys can go ahead and start talking about the episode if you wish. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to put on so that people can talk to us if they want to. So everyone watched the episode, obviously?
Yeah.
Yep, multiple times.
How about that Metallica? I mean, I can't just watch that over and over, that whole first section. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, Metallica.
I think it's my favorite one.
I heard them saying that it took them quite a long time to be able to get Metallica, actually, because they don't normally, Metallica normally doesn't allow, any TV shows or anything to use them, so.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like Supernatural's really becoming more and more mainstream lately. I mean, Kansas performed Carry On My Wayward Son at Comic-Con. Metallica let them use their music. I feel like it's becoming more and more of like instead of the little show that could, it's the little show that did.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
I have the same feeling.
I feel like what season 13 gets a rock concert at their Comic-Con panel. I mean, they don't need to promo it, but they're promoting it.
I think the message that it's showing is just that they're doing the thing they want to do. I mean, if they want to bring a rock band at Comic-Con, they will bring a rock band.
Yeah,
exactly.
More and more people know about it now. Like when I first started watching it, and I'd be like, "Oh, like I just started this great show. It's Supernatural," and everybody's like, "What?" And now I'm a corporate trainer. I actually have a class going on for the next couple weeks. And I always talk about it in my, tell me a fun fact about yourself. And there's 4 people in my class who are like, I love that show. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that television has, in general, become so much better in the past few years that people are starting to look back at the things that were overlooked before. So I think that in the next few years, we're going to have a wave of people that are suddenly going to realize that Supernatural is so much bigger than anything they expected it to be.
Yeah.
I agree.
I absolutely agree.
I mean, that's the reason why I didn't start it before, because I started to watch Supernatural last summer, and I thought that it was just a show about 2 pretty boys chasing monsters. And pretty earlier on, I realized that it was, well, there was a bit of pretty boys and a bit of monsters, but it was so much bigger than that. I was just taken back by how actually huge it is. So I think a lot of people are bound to realize that Supernatural is nothing what they thought it was, and it's everything what they expected it not to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It's epic, but it's about family, and people don't realize that it's not a romantic thing. It's not where a lot of the shows on the CW are drama angst. It's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true indeed. I was a big CW fan. I mean, I used to watch basically all the shows from CW, and I have to admit that now that I'm so into Supernatural, I've stopped watching the other shows simply because, I mean, it's not half as good. So I'm
That's what
get-
time.
I'm going to
watching it
pay for that. But I mean, I used to watch all the superheroes shows, and I mean, they're good. They're good. I used to be a big Arrow fan and all, but I have to say that what you found in Supernatural is so much darker and so much deeper and so much. I mean, even the writing goes in places that you wouldn't think possible. So I'm sorry, CW superheroes fans of some shows, but I mean, get to Supernatural. You're going to have a lot more fun.
Exactly.
The superhero stuff is really good on the CW. I got to give them that. They do a good job with it. But I mean, just every little detail on Supernatural, and this season especially, I feel like they're all on their A game and they're really bringing it.
Yeah.
So it's a level of craftsmanship that just no other show has reached.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
And I
Yeah.
think that's due to not only just the sheer amount of time that everyone has been working on the show, because I remember with many of the guest stars that I've talked to, they've said that some of the crew members have actually been with the show since the pilot. And I think it's that, plus, I mean, just the talent that we have. Like, I mean, you've got the talent of course, our wonderful cast, but you've got like the producers, the directors, the cameramen, like the makeup.
Yeah.
All of
I
it.
mean, I won't get into last week's episode, but the makeup.
Yeah, exactly. No, we have an amazing crew, and I think that they have something. I mean, we can talk about the fandom because we know the fandom, but I think they have something on set that's pretty special. I mean, we know that they're always goofy and they always do fun stuff and they have a lot of fun. And I think that makes a huge difference because they know they're getting back each and every season to something they love to do and something they have fun doing. So I think it makes for a much bigger difference than we even realize.
It makes a difference all the way out to the fandom as well. Because the center is the show, and it's all on the boys to start with, right? But it moves out from Jared and Jensen and Misha and just keeps on going throughout the whole crew, and
it's a wave.
It comes all the way out to us and back again.
Yeah, it's a wave, exactly.
And I think that's why the SPN family, it's not just the fandom, it's the crew, it's the cast. Everybody's so humble. Like, if you guys have ever gotten to watch them film, like, so I was in Vancouver last April. I went to Seattle for CCon, and then I drove up to Vancouver because I have some friends in Vancouver I was going to visit for a week. And I actually got to watch them film the episode, or the piece of the episode where Mary goes to Jodie's house to try and kill her at the end of last season. And me and a friend of mine were just standing there. We're watching them set up. You know, the sheriff's truck was in the driveway. Mary's car was in the driveway. And all of a sudden, here comes Kim Rhodes barreling down the driveway, pulling Bobo behind her by his, like, wrist with Sam Smith. And she just comes over and she's like, "Hi, guys. Y'all know Bobo, right? What are you doing?" Like, and just hung out and talked with us. Like, when we were there with the crew, when they weren't shooting between takes, they were coming over and talking to us saying, "Hey, how you guys doing? What are you doing tonight?" You know, it's not, there's no pretentiousness. There's no, we're better than you. It's everybody hanging out, and either watching or doing something that they truly love to do. And it's just awesome.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I've been lucky enough, because I live in northern BC, I've been lucky enough to actually see filming 3 or 4 times. But the one time I was nowhere near anywhere where filming was. I was actually just where they had 2 babies set up. And I ended up talking to one of the...
cool.
Yeah, I got I got a really nice poster of baby that I got out of that I got signed. But I ended up just actually talking to one of the PAs, and it was just a lot of fun finding out like all the behind the scenes kind of information. And I mean, you're right. No one's pretentious. They all know why they have that job, because of us, the fans. And they show that in like they're all very kind and sharing and that sort of thing. But back to the episode. So this is I hate to do this, but I am the moderator, I guess, and this is supposed to be a review of the first episode. I have to mention the choice of Alex as Jack. Oh my Chuck! Like, yeah. That one scene where Jack meets the sheriff at the beginning of the scene, and that little smirk, I tell you, that had me giggling after. It's just
enigmatic.
Yeah.
And the way they've written that character, he's so naive and so innocent, which is exactly what you would think that, well, you would hope a Nephilim would be, someone who is half angel and half human, because yes, of course, he still has all these powers, but he's still half human. And he has no idea what's going on. His point of reference is Cass, and Cass isn't there. So it's...
Exactly. They made him, I mean, he's immortal, and I mean, they figured out pretty quickly, but he is emotionally vulnerable. He's going to drink the emotions around him, and that's what's going to make him who he is. And I think that the mirror between him and Cass is just so obvious. I mean, they picked someone who looks like Misha, which is clearly helping, but he's also, I mean, I've noticed so many little things on the episode that were exactly like, at one point, something that Misha pulled out and something that Misha gave to Cass. And I mean, there's this whole, emotional vulnerability is I think it's what fits, because if you think about it, he's going to absorb what Sam is going to bring him, because from the second he gets in the cell with Sam, he's going to switch and to become sorry. And he's going to want the people to be sorry. And that is so much like Sam. He's just going to absorb the emotion around him. And that makes him, I mean, I love the character. I fell in love with Jack within probably less than minutes. He was there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to love him. And it just works.
It does. And even physically, I mean, we were watching the episode, I noticed that same scene with the cell. Sam is sitting pretty much cross-legged on the one bench in the cell, and then Jack goes and sits exactly the same way with his hands exactly the same way. So he mimics. Yeah, very much a sponge.
He is.
I feel like they really channeled the kind of wide-eyed innocence and wonder that Cass had when he first came to Earth, when he first met up with the Winchesters. Everything was new. You know, he loved to watch the bees, and he was fascinated by humanity, and it was like all of these things. And I feel like that's really what they brought to Jack in the beginning too. Like, he's fascinated. We see him again in the sheriff's department with the candy bar. I mean, it's, to us, it's like, all right, yeah, congratulations, Jack, it's a candy bar. But he's so excited and like wide-eyed and like, this is amazing. And it's like, wow, like, Cass, peanut butter and jelly was a great example of that. So excited by it, and that's so great to see.
It is.
He was curious about just the water bottle. He didn't know what to do with it.
No, he's like looking at it. What is this? That was just awesome acting. Like, I mean,
I know.
so believable.
He was good, and I think they've channeled our in when they bring the nougat bar. I think for a Supernatural fan, the candy bar is straight a Gabriel reference.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they are playing emotionally. They are playing with a reference that we have. We know that, and Gabriel is a character that has been massively loved. So channeling Gabriel is literally manipulative emotionally. I mean, it's like, you know that reference, you know that character, well, you're going to love him as much. And I like the fact that they bring this little nougat reference. It's something that's become quite big in the fandom. I mean, it's like
Immediately.
become nougat boys. So I like that.
I was noticing that they were doing some interesting things with language. They've been doing it all season, but one of the things that I've noticed is that they've simplified things down to good, bad, no, yes. Everything is like a young child would need to hear it in order to understand concepts. So even from the very first words of the episode, it was Sam just saying no, 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 and then in the parking lot at the Pirates, whatever it was, Sam is surprised that Dean doesn't want to go in with him, and Dean says he's going to call Jody, and Sam says that's good, and then of course Dean turns around and says it's anything but good. So we're deciding what's good, what's not good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but you're quite right talking about that. That it's very much almost like a black and white.
Yeah.
Rather than gray areas.
But Supernatural
such a partner. Oh, go ahead,
Supernatural
Axie.
deals with try to tell you that there's only black and there's only white, and I think the whole journey of Supernatural is discovering all the grays that are in between.
Yes.
Because you've got
boys too. I mean, it's not like they started out seeing those gray areas. It was especially Dean. He was.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Black and white. Everything was one or the other. It was we kill it or we don't. But and he sometimes falls back on that, obviously. But learning about how to live in that gray space was a long journey for them. And we've got this new character starting out at the beginning of that journey again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and talking about humanity too, like, going back to the black and white, it's a monster or it's not a monster. It was like that in the beginning, and then through working with Cass and working through Crowley and the other creatures that they've worked with, Dean and Sam learn that it's not always black and white. We have Kate, who's a werewolf who is still alive. She's still out there somewhere. Benny was a vampire, and after everything him and Dean went through in Purgatory, but then Cass dies. Mm-hmm. And now Dean is very much back to it's a monster or it's not a monster. Jack can't be good because he's not human, so he's not good. And I thought it was really interesting how they brought that back in. Like, it's like a switch goes. It's it. Cass is gone. You're evil. If you're not human, you're evil. Jack isn't human, therefore he's evil. There's no hands.
And the boys, what they need right now is so opposite from each other, because Dean just needs to have that be true, that this is bad, I'm going to kill it. Whereas Sam is getting all of his choices made for him by Dean right now, right at this point. Like, he wanted to talk to Jack, but Dean just shoots him. He, and he asks if it's possible that Cass is alive, and not, he doesn't just say Cass is dead. He says, it. He's telling him what he knows. And he does that again with Mary at the end. He's like, that Lucifer killed her. And Sam knows nothing of the sort. He just is being told what he's supposed to know. because
really-
he needs him to be on board with him, I think, is the problem.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting seeing the difference between Sam at the beginning of the season and Sam now, because at the beginning of the season, Sam was so optimistic and so hopeful that they could bring Cass back, that they could bring Mary back. But now, in current episodes, he's so distraught. And as Axie mentioned in her review, it's really interesting to see Sam finally disclosing all of this emotion and all of this pain that he'd have to deal with Lucifer. Now, I'm almost wondering if they didn't delve into that at the beginning of the season. First of all, because technically Lucifer isn't in the picture anymore. I mean, he's in the EU, right? But it's just, that's why I was really interested in doing episode reviews from the beginning of the season rather than what's current, because we have hindsight now. We have things that have happened since. I mean, pretty much everyone knew Cass was going to come back thanks to Jared, right? Gotta love that anyway. But everyone knew that Cass was coming back, but we didn't know how, and we didn't know when, and we didn't know what sort of Castiel was coming back. So, but knowing how everything happened and all the stuff that's happened since, it's really interesting to see the connotations and the parallels, as was mentioned, the candy bar with Gabriel, right? So I've heard, now I'd have to look it up to see exactly who it was that said it, but I've heard at least one person say that this is possibly the beginning of a 5-year arc.
Yeah.
Again.
I've heard the same thing.
So that makes the fangirl in me very, very happy.
Oh, yes.
Don't get me wrong. I totally understand if Jared and Jensen need a break. I mean, for goodness sakes, they've been doing this for so long, but that makes the fangirl in me very happy. So it's really interesting to try and figure out where they're going from here. I mean, I don't really have that much of an analytical mind. So some part of me is like, I'm just enjoying watching the show. Just do whatever you want. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. It really is.
Yeah.
I have to say that they're finally, so going back to Sam's character, in the beginning, he's so hopeful and everything's going to be fine and it's all going to get fixed and it's going to be great. And now you're not seeing that. Like, I feel like we're getting so much Sam character development because he's finally dealing with everything that he has. Everything that happened.
I don't think he's ever been that optimistic in the beginning of the season. I mean, I'm known to be a huge Sam's girl. And I think that he's been trying to find excuses not to break down. And his excuse was to take Jack and make Jack a good character and take the Lucifer part out of Jack because he needs to believe that it is possible because he sees himself in Jack a whole lot. And if Jack is capable of being entirely good at the end, then there's this one thing that he will have done correctly and this one thing that will have gone the right way. And I think that it is his excuses not to break down. But I don't think Sam has been okay at all. He's just pretty good at hiding it, and he's pretty good at pushing it down, and he's pretty good at just pretending that it's fine. But Sam's not fine. He's not at all.
Yes, I agree. I think that in watching it now, watching episode 1 from this perspective, I see so many signs that Sam is just not. He's hanging on by a thread. He's very, very afraid, and I have a cat on my shoulder. And he's. I remember being at the time kind of struck by the scene where they walk out of the house for the first time to go and try to find Jack at the very beginning, and Dean's like, "Can he teleport? Can he fly?" And Sam's just saying, "What?" Like he's totally not even in the same ballpark yet. We saw him. I mean, visually speaking, we start the episode. The very first thing we see is Sam standing alone, facing this creature who he has no idea anything about, and it's Lucifer's child. and the first thing that the child is asking about is his father. And I think that Jared did a remarkable job of all the layers of feeling, showing all of those layers. And we weren't looking for them. We just wanted to figure out what was going on with this Jack kid. So but we can look for them now, though, in our rewatches.
Yeah, Jared, all three of the cast are just amazing, amazing actors. The depth of emotion that all three of them can put into just from a simple look on their face, a look in their eyes, it gives me shivers. Like,
yeah, exactly.
We are just so lucky.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm genuinely stumped at why nothing more award-y has been done for them, because they are so good. I mean, I'm so mad at all those idiots at the Golden Globes and Grammy Awards, not even considering fan fiction, not fan fiction, science fiction and fantasy and everything that goes beyond just drama and comedy, because it is a jar and it is a niche that is going forward exponentially in the most recent years. And I think we need absolutely to have a category that recognizes that, because those three and so many others, but those three would have like countless nominations. They are so good, and they are so good in their own different ways. I mean, what Jared is doing is nothing to have to do with Jensen and nothing to have to do with Misha, and all three together, it's like there's a force in the show that is just 99% of the time the emotion is just so raw. I even question how they can just switch it off and just, you know, go back home after the work day is done, and how they can just separate themselves from those emotions because they are so real and so raw. And I think that's one of the things that drive me insane about people saying, oh, you know, that just, you know, some TV show actors. No, they're not just some TV show actors. They're among the best you can possibly get.
Because they have that ability to convey so much emotion in their words, in their actions, and their facial expressions. And they've been doing it for so long. And it makes, and it's not even just, because if you take the show as what we see and the connection that we have with them, with the actual show, and then you take who they are when they're outside of the show, and it's amazing how much interaction that they have with fans, how much care that they have with fans. Because I honestly don't know if there is anyone else in the whole entire TV show, like TV shows, that actually do as many conventions as they do and dedicate as much time as they do. And they have always said that if we ever see them on the street or anything at all, just go up and say hi, and if they want a picture. And I mean, I, for once, actually had the ability to do that because I found Jared Padalecki in the wild in New Orleans. Don't know if you guys know the story, but poor dude was lost because his cell phone stopped working. So, of course, I don't know if you've ever been to the French Quarter, but Bourbon Street is so busy. And at that point in time, they were doing construction, so the entire middle of the street was barred off, so it was even busier. This was around Halloween, so there was so much people. But of course, Jared's like 2 feet taller than everyone else. And it's like, oh my God, it's Jared! So I was with my husband at the time, and I'm like, I have to go and get a picture with Jared. So I ended up getting this really cute picture. I'll tweet it out again after the podcast. But the thing is that because I've seen them in conventions, I've interacted with them with conventions, I've seen them on social media and interviews and that sort of thing, you know they are approachable. You know you can go and say, can I have a photo? I love your character, that sort of thing. They're really down to earth and really humble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you can feel that. It's
You
something
really,
you
really
can It's something that you can feel. You cannot pretend that you are like that, and then people are going to realize that you are not. That is one of the reasons why I stopped watching Supergirl in the first place, because I was supposed to go to a convention when she had been announced, and then she canceled it without even apologizing for it. I mean, if you cancel it, that's fine. Just say you're sorry. I mean, that's a little sentence, it's just a few words, and that works. And she just didn't bother. And we discovered that the weekend of the convention, she was on, I don't know, some sort of weekend somewhere having fun with her boyfriend at the time. And you're like, okay, all right. You don't apologize, and then you show that kind of things. I mean, it doesn't make us feel like you really care about us. And then she did that again. The same thing, the same convention in a different city, and pictures came out, and she didn't apologize. So that's one of the reasons why I couldn't bother watching Supergirl anymore, because I just feel like they don't give a damn about the fans. And I mean, if you don't have fans in this area of work, you're screwed. There's nothing to do. And when you're coming from Supernatural and you get that kind of vibe, yeah, you just can't be asked to continue watching. Just like, okay, if you think we're not necessary to your life, then fine, just keep going, and I'm just gonna stop and do something else and give my time to someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone who appreciates that they have fans and actually wants to interact with them, and you keep that relationship open. So
yeah, the boys, all three of them, Jared, Jensen, and Misha, are emotionally intelligent, unusually so, and kind of evolved in a way that not everybody in Hollywood would be. So we're very fortunate for that.
Yeah, no, we are really, really, really lucky. I mean, being able to, again, going back to talking to the guest stars, one common theme of every single guest star I've talked to, and I've done over 100 interviews of Supernatural, they all talk about what gentlemen and how humble Jared and Jensen and Misha are, and how more than once they've talked about the trickle-down effect, how if you have awesome stars and a really awesome cast, that trickles down to the crew, because the crew always have a good time. That trickles down to like the guest stars, and then it shows in the episodes. It shows in the quality of the work that comes out. So it's very, very rare to have so many cast members that are the same as since the pilot, and because that really reflects on how humble and how honest and true to self that Jared and Jensen and Misha are. So
we wouldn't even be here talking about this right now.
No.
If it weren't for who they are as people, they would have been long gone from the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Moved on to the next thing. Try, Jensen would be Captain America.
Not that would be a bad thing, because
I kind of wanted to be James Bond.
I could see that. I could definitely see that, actually. Jensen's James Bond.
Yeah,
interesting.
Jensen, like an amazing James Bond. And I mean, since Jared is such a big fan of the whole James Bond franchise, that would be like, he would be the biggest fanboy in the entire world. So I mean, only for that reason, only to just make Jared become like insane with nerdiness, we need to make that happen.
That is so good. So getting back to the episode, what was your favorite scene?
Honestly, I liked how they showed how dirty Baby was. Because if you had any question about what Dean's mental state was, that car, the condition of that car, put an end to it. It was very obvious.
It was very obvious.
That was a brilliant artistic choice.
Plus, it gave them a way for that angel, I forget what her name is, to write bitch on the side.
Yes.
So, because I noticed it instantly that baby was so dirty. I'm like, why is she so dirty? That's so weird. Even the first time I watched it. But yeah, for me, my favorite scene for emotional impact would have to be, of course, the second to last scene. But my favorite scene, that's a difficult one, actually. I would probably have, yeah, because I usually like the comedic beats, the stuff that makes you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff that's just deep. So I think I'll just stick with the second to last scene just because it literally tore me apart. Oh, Supernatural. Why do you do this? Pardon?
My favorite scene is the tie. It's between that scene that just I mean, I love the fact that Sam, he's the one to teach Jack how to grieve. And he gives him some pretty good keys about how to grieve. You say thank you, you hope there's a better place. There's something extremely positive in that whole, you've lost your mother, you've lost your father, you're alone with us. And there's something, he's really keen on teaching him not to be angry. He's teaching him how to be thankful. And I mean, that's a major side of Sam. He doesn't do well with anger. And that's how you feel like in the most recent episode, he's really in a bad place because he doesn't do well with anger. But I love that scene, but I have to say that it's a tie and it's really impossible for me to choose with Dean's prayer. Dean's prayer was absolutely heartbreaking. I was a mess because for Dean to pray, I mean, shit must have happened and it must be pretty bad. For him to go solo, because that's the lower he will possibly get. For him to go solo has to pray to Chuck. You can just see that the poor guy is absolutely devastated. He needs them back and he needs Cass back. And that scene just I mean, I'm just a mess every time.
And visually, they immediately tie us right back to home, where Dean is calling his father, begging him to help him because, they have, Sam is having his visions and it's, he needs help and he needs help again from Chuck and he's asking in the same way and then went behind the building like he did before. And it immediately came to mind. I think that it was completely on purpose that they were tying those two together.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
I agree. Dean reaching out to a father figure that's not there. I mean, that was a theme in the beginning. Cass went through it with Chuck, and now here Dean is. Anybody that could hold any kind of parental figure that could help him, because he can't do it anymore. He can't hold on and believe that everything's okay and fight the good fight anymore. He doesn't want to do it. He's done. He has given everything that he has and has lost everything except for Sam, and he's done. That's what this episode really was to me.
Exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right, Nicole. That's absolutely what it was. I agree 150%.
That beautiful scene that we've all been talking about at the end, the soaring music and the beautiful scenery, and it was so cinematic and I'm not sure that most TV shows could have held up that level of cinematic intensity. I think we were prepared to go there with them into this really beautiful, intense moment. And when the music starts soaring, our emotions are soaring with it, and we're right on board.
Yeah, exactly.
My mom's a casual Supernatural fan, so she'll catch it when it's on reruns and everything. I know I don't really think that there is such a thing, but whatever. And when she watched that episode, she watched it a couple weeks later. I mean, I think by the time she had watched it, Cass was already back, so I hadn't really thought much about it. She called me in tears. she's like, I cannot believe this. She goes, I can't believe this episode. She goes, this makes me want to reach out to everybody I know and just give them a hug and you know, just touch base and make sure that they're there. So for us, for those of us that are part of the fandom and that watch the episodes and, you know, go to the conventions and read the fan fiction and interact with each other about the show and the ideas that we have and everything else, that's one thing. But to take a casual viewer and pull them to that level of emotion, that takes a lot of skill and a lot of talent. And it's another more proof of just how amazing the show really is.
Yeah. Let's talk about cinematography in this episode.
Oh,
there
amazing.
was some crazy good cinematography in this episode. Yeah. They've been doing such beautiful things with Baby since Baby, where they're really, I don't know. I really don't know how they film these things sometimes. I don't know how Jensen drives an axe, but he does. But they've got these boom cameras. I don't know what they're doing to make these beautiful shots of that car while it's moving, but they're doing it.
Well, I suspect that it's not so much as making the scene beautiful. I think Baby makes everything better. I mean, she could literally be in the worst parking lot, like in the gloomiest place in the world, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful.
And you know, whenever you hear that sound of her engine, is her very unique engine sound of her approaching, right? You can hear, whenever I put the closed captions on, it says baby approaching, because they know that sound is an important sound.
Mm-hmm. That and the door squeak.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those two things.
I mean, just fire Jared and Jensen and keep Baby.
Yeah. Let baby keep carrying on for years and years to go. But going back to what you were saying about the cinematography, I think, so we went into this episode, yes, Jared had spoiled it at JibCon that Cass wasn't dead. And I think no matter how emotional we responded to Cass's death, I think we all really believed that there's no way they were going to get rid of him. He's too intrinsic of a part of the show to just kill him off in the last 5 seconds of a season finale. Like, he deserves way more honor than that. But the flashes of them by themselves in this episode, Jack walking down the road, just kind of looking, nothing around him, just looking around. Dean, when he's praying, when he's by his car, how alone he is. They really went to far lengths to emphasize that feeling of aloneness. You know, you don't really get those shots with Sam in this episode. He's usually with someone else in the scene. But when you look at Dean, and not so much Jack towards the end, because Jack's not feeling that so much of aloneness, but Dean, there's multiple shots of just him. He's by himself. He's by himself with Cass, who's already passed. He's by himself with Baby, but he's by himself. And I think that's a huge part of the beginning of this season, is that even though he still has Sam, he doesn't, not feeling that connection to life anymore.
Mm-hmm. They're communicating better than ever, but they're not together. They're not together in their plans. They're not connecting. They're emotionally. They're both alone. And I think that they did a good job of showing that visually in the first episode, using the beautiful open spaces for one thing. So he was small in the shot a lot. We'd see this big beautiful scene with the small, with him small in the shot. They did a really good job of showing us visually what they were feeling.
And I think it's that episode is literally a love letter to that character that we're all missing, to Castiel, because you can feel like, I mean, Jack's life would have started differently if Castiel was here, and it would have been a lot less I mean, not maybe traumatic because Clark and the sheriff were pretty good to him. But I mean, if Castiel had been here, like from his very first minutes on, things would have been so much different. So you're like, look at how bad and how poor those characters are if you take away that very important part of the whole puzzle. I mean, Dean is miserable. Sam is miserable, even if he's showing it much less so. But Sam is the one that's going to have to carry the grieving process to Jack, and Jack is all alone. So I mean, even if Cass is virtually away or dead on that poor table, I mean, you can feel his presence in his absence, and I think that just says a whole lot about how important the character is. And I have to say that I was thrilled at the way Jack is saying that he's looking for his father to Sam, and Sam naturally assumes that he's speaking of Lucifer. And then when Jack says, "No, I'm talking about Castiel," and you're like, wow, you already have this huge, massive piece of information that says that Jack has connected to Castiel in such a way. He's already had a major impact on his existence, and he's not there. And I was wild because it was so good and so amazingly written. I mean, I clearly didn't saw that coming. I knew that the connection was here, and we've seen it, and we've seen how he was with Kelly, and we knew it was there. But I just didn't thought that he had felt it in such a way that even through birth, he keeps those memories and he keeps this feeling. And I was just so happy that they went there.
I've got a couple of things to mention about Castiel, actually. Well, first of all, let's give Jared a break. I think that they would never intended to really keep it a secret because they knew that we were we wasn't
that was purposeful.
But no, Jared definitely had permission to spill that at JibCon. That was not an accident.
I'm sure not. But anyway, what I was noticing was the two angels when they were in the house and standing over Castiel's body. And the one said he deserved better, and the other said, no, he really didn't. And I think that really is setting up Castiel's arc for this whole season, which is casting off that his own judgment of himself as being a failure or having made so many mistakes and caused so much death. I mean, the angels are going extinct basically because Castiel exists, but he does deserve better, and so that's what he's starting to learn. And I think that when he said he saved himself in the empty, I think that's where his head was where he's like, you know what, I'm doing the best I can here, and I'm just going to move forward. And I think that's his whole arc this season, is to take back his mojo. We've got Castiel with his mojo back.
Exactly, his confidence.
Yes.
Because he's confident in himself now that he regrets his mistakes, and he understands that he has made mistakes. But he's like, I've moved past them. I'm like you said, I'm doing the best I can, and that's got to be good enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like he's finally looking at Sam and Dean as Sam and Dean, saying that, you know what, they've made mistakes, they've screwed up, and they're still fighting the good fight. They're still the good guys. So I don't have to be perfect anymore. I can make mistakes, and that's fine, and it can be fixed. And I think being able to own up to his mistakes, and and we'll see later on in this season how he's like, I'm fixing this, or I'm not making this mistake again, or whatever the case may be. He's finally realizing that he doesn't have to be this perfect person all the time. It doesn't make him any less of an amazing human being or an amazing angel or whatever just because he's made some mistakes. Chuck gave him free will, and he's done with it what he did. And it doesn't make him a bad, I will say person just for the sake of pronouns, but it doesn't make him a bad person because he's made mistakes. And I think him learning that, and when we talk about The Big Empty, we can get into that even more because that whole scene with him in the empty was ridiculous. But, you know, it's really the character growth in this season, starting right from this episode, has been astronomical for all of them. And it's really been a great thing to see.
You're absolutely right. I think that what you're saying is basically boils down to he's becoming a better human. I mean, humans are known to accept their mistakes and to move past their mistakes. And that's something that Angels doesn't do. If Angels screw up, then it's your fault and they don't give a damn. And I mean, they don't screw up. They're just so convinced that whatever they're doing is something right and something they have to do that they won't question it. The mere fact that Castiel questioned what he's doing and Castiel questioned moving past all of his mistakes and try to fix it makes him literally a better human than we've seen in a while. He is becoming more human than he has been in season 9. He is embracing whatever humanity is, and humanity is a collection of gray areas and not just black and white. And he's embracing that. But I love how just done with everything he is. I mean, not to mention what happened on the last episode, but that catch scene just was
That was amazing.
so good. He's like it just can't bother anymore. Like he's like, can I get him to shut up? I cannot get him to shut up. I'm going to make him shut up.
Shut him up.
You know what that reminded me of? Not to go too far ahead, but that reminded me of the scene with Dean and Sam and Bella after she has his car impounded. And Dean's like, can I shoot her? And Sam's like, not in public. Like, I almost feel that's how Cass was with Ketch. Like, can I shoot him? No. Fine, then I'm going to put him down.
Exactly. That's absolutely true. That's exactly the same thing.
I was actually something you were saying was reminding me of his conversation with Hannah, where he says that Sam and Dean are the best men he's ever known, and they're his friends, and he's never been able to see that in himself. And I think that's really that was a really good point you made. That he's looking at Sam and Dean and seeing them for what they are, and saying, "Oh, well, that's okay for me too. Then I can still stay on the right track, still fight for the good fight, but after having made these mistakes."
Exactly. Perfect. Well, it is currently 7:04 my time. So
wow.
Yes, we've talked for almost an hour.
That's amazing.
I know. Time flies by when you're talking about Supernatural.
Yeah,
I know this well. One thing I wanted to say before I signed off is just because this is our first podcast. I hope to do this weekly, and I've talked to Axie about this of possibly during the hiatus in the summertime is actually starting at the very, very beginning.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I think that's a fantastic.
Episode 1. Baby Sam, Baby Dean.
oh my gosh. That's so good.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So once we get caught up with season 13, is to start over from the beginning. But I also just wanted to talk about my website, Changing Channels, and basically what the purpose of it and what my goals are for it. So basically, obviously one of my goals is to be able to post interviews for Supernatural, because I don't know if you guys know, or any of our viewers know, too much about how the publication system works. But basically, to be able to get the main actors, you need to have a magazine behind you. And to be able to get a magazine, you need to have the interviews. It's very much a catch-22 unless you have contacts. I'm very lucky with my previous publication because I do have contacts. So that's the reason why I was able to get Mark. I was able to get some of the other guest stars because the publicists know me. But the main reason for me doing Changing Channels wasn't the interviews. My main reason was to have somewhere for fans to go to learn about other fans. So our lore, to find out about the different things that people are into That's the Crafty Saturday. So far, I've done Andrea and her pillows, and of course, Elizabeth and Little Pops, right? And it's about the charities. I'm hoping later today to be able to post an interview I did with Castiel's Angels. So it's I'm working on there are a few things that are in the works that I'm still planning on doing, but I have to get approval from the people that I want to be involved. But it's basically a love project for me. It's a passion project. As far as I'm concerned, there is never going to be any ads or anything like that. I don't plan on making money from this site. It is my pride and joy. It is my baby. I'm always open to anyone who has any ideas, any thoughts, any concerns. But one thing, and I'm only going to say this once, one thing I want to definitely stay away from at Changing Channels is the drama. Everyone is welcome. I don't care who you ship. I don't care who you don't ship. As long as everyone is kind and open to, okay, well, I might not believe this, but other people do. I'm fine with that. But that's the reason why I only currently have commenting on available on the one interview that I did. So as I said, if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, if you have concerns, if you are interested in participating in Our Lore, which if you haven't heard of it is basically just like a fandom profile, how you got involved with the show, my favorite question is, what is your fandom superpower? Because I like that. But it's available on the website, changingchannels.com/Our Lore. I believe, again, I will repost the information because I'm about to post another Our Lore for today. So thank you very much for my panel guests. I hope to see you again possibly next weekend. Same time, same channel.
We'll be here.
All right. So you guys have a lovely day, and I will talk to you later.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.